So I was walking through a museum a while back, looking at all these portraits, Renaissance, Romantics, all the way up to, I don't know, modern surrealism.
Mm-hmm.
And there's this one theme that just, it refuses to die. It's maybe the most enduring trope in art, maybe in our whole consciousness.
The idea that woman is a riddle.
The dark continent, yeah, exactly. The eternal enigma, this creature that you just can't map.
Right.
You see it in the Mona Lisa's smile, you hear it in pop songs, about girls being hard to get or impossible to figure out. And I have to admit, there's a part of me, I think part of most people, that finds it, well, romantic.
It feels profound.
It does. It feels profound, right? This idea that women have some secret, deep interior life that men are just destined to chase but never quite catch. It adds a bit of magic to things.
It only feels romantic because it's so much safer than the alternative.
Safer? How is being baffled by half the human population safe?
Because if we admit that this whole mystery is a fabrication, just a story we tell ourselves, then we have to look at what's behind it.
And you're saying what's behind it isn't so romantic.
What lies behind it is not some beautiful, poetic secret. It's a terrified civilization.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, we don't call women mysterious because we don't understand them. We call them mysterious to avoid what they actually reveal.
Whoa. Okay, that is a massive pivot from, the poet gazing at his muse. You're saying the mystery isn't a compliment, it's a defense mechanism.
It's a psychic barricade.
Yeah.
Think about it. If I say you are a mystery, I'm completely absolved from the responsibility of knowing you, but, and this is more important, I am protected from what you represent.
Okay, let's push on that. If she isn't a puzzle to be solved, what is she? In this framework you're building, what is the function of a woman?
She is a mirror held up to the very architecture of our society. And when civilization looks into that mirror, it flinches. It flinches. Think about the labels we've piled onto her for centuries. Eve, Pandora, the witch, the virgin, the whore, the hysteric. We treat these like descriptions of her nature, like we're categorizing a species of bird, but they're not. They're projections. It's the debris of the male psyche being thrown outward.
A barricade against what, exactly? What is so terrifying that we have to wrap it up in 2,000 years of mythology just to even look at it?
The raw reality of human nature.
Yeah.
The parts of ourselves that we had to amputate to build what we call civilization.
Okay.
You really just look at this with a psychoanalytic lens. The entire project of society, cities, laws, economies, polite conversation, it's all founded on renunciation.
On giving things up.
Exactly.
Yeah.
To live together without, tearing each other limb from limb,
Yeah.
we have to suppress our primal drives. We trade instinct for order. We trade impulse for security.
Right, the social contract. I agree not to act on every aggressive urge I have. I don't just take whatever I want in exchange. Well, the trains run on time and I don't get murdered by my neighbor.
Precisely.
Yeah.
But here is the catch. And it's a catch that drives us half mad. That energy. It doesn't just vanish. We aren't computers where you can just, delete a file. We're animals in suits.
Mm-hmm.
And we maintain this fragile peace through a vast, invisible machinery of guilt and shame, the superego. But the repression is never perfect. The steam is always building up in the pipes.
So the drives, aggression, lust, the desire for chaos, they're all still there, just bubbling under the surface.
Always. And they need somewhere to go. We need a scapegoat, a repository for everything we can't tolerate in ourselves.
And that's where woman comes in.
Civilization is built on linearity, control, mastery, logic. It's a structure of straight lines. But the woman, not as she is, maybe, but as she's imagined by this structure, she's fluid. She is cyclical. She is biological in a way that just defies the logic of control.
That makes sense physically. I mean, you think about the modern world, it's all about the 9 to 5, the clock, the quarterly report. It's linear.
Yes.
But the female body menstruation, pregnancy, it's following a rhythm that completely ignores that clock.
It's a quiet rebellion. In a world that worships productivity, female physiology is an insult. She bleeds without an injury. She grows life without a conscious act of will. She has pleasure that for centuries resisted being quantified or controlled. She is the living reminder of the biology we are so desperately trying to transcend.
So culture has to respond.
It responds not with curiosity, but with containment.
Containment, that sounds so clinical, almost polite. But the history of this is, well, it's pretty brutal. It isn't just putting someone in a box, it's making them sick. Which brings me to the 19th century epidemic of hysteria.
The great epidemic of the Victorian age, yes.
It's always fascinated me. You had thousands of women suddenly fainting, suffering paralysis, convulsions, losing their voices. And for the longest time, the medical establishment just shrugged.
Or worse, they treated it with disdain. It was seen as a moral weakness, women's troubles, a fragility of the spirit, a wandering womb.
Right, the classic "it's all in her head" diagnosis.
But if we stop looking at it as a medical failure and start looking at it as a language, everything changes. Hysteria wasn't a lie. It was a form of truth-telling.
How so?
These symptoms were messages from the unconscious, encrypted cries against a world that denied them a voice or agency or desire. The body was speaking because the mouth was forbidden to.
It's like the pressure valve finally blowing. If you can't say "I'm unhappy" or "I feel trapped," then your legs just stop working.
Precisely. And this is where the story gets very dark. This is where the mystery becomes a weapon. This is where Freud enters the picture. Now, people love to mock Freud today, but in the beginning, he did something radical.
He listened.
He actually listened to these women, patients like Anna O. or Dora. He traced the roots of their neurosis, and at first, he developed what he called the seduction theory.
Okay.
He found that the root of this hysteria was often trauma, specifically sexual trauma. He started to see that the cause wasn't a weak spirit, but abuse. Abuse suffered in childhood by fathers, uncles, trusted authority figures.
That is a massive indictment. I mean, in Vienna, in the 1890s, you're talking about the pillars of the bourgeois family.
It was explosive. It threatened to shatter the entire image of the civilized moral household. It suggested the men building the banks and the laws were running domestic theaters of terror.
Yeah.
And Freud, he blinked.
He blinked.
He retreated. The implications were just too terrifying. So he abandoned the seduction theory and replaced it with the idea of fantasy.
Wait, pause. That's a devastating shift.
It is. He decided these women weren't remembering real abuse, they were fantasizing about it. They desired the father, they didn't suffer from him.
Why? Why would a man so obsessed with truth walk back something so crucial? He basically just gaslit an entire generation of patients.
Because the alternative was unbearable. To believe the women would have meant acknowledging that civilization was rotting from the inside out. It would have meant holding the fathers accountable for systemic violence. It was so much easier, so much safer to label the woman enigmatic, confused, or hysterical.
So the label of mystery isn't poetic at all, it's strategic, it's a cover-up.
Exactly. If she's a mystery, I don't have to understand her pain. If she's a riddle, I don't have to look at the bruise. Mystery invites wonder, maybe, but it never, ever invites accountability. It lets men and the institutions they build gaze at women with fascination, but never truly see them.
This feels like there's a deeper, almost cosmic force at play here. It's not just about abuse, it's about existence itself. You've mentioned these two drives before, Eros and Thanatos.
We have to go back to the bedrock of the psyche. Freud saw two fundamental forces that rule all of life, Eros and Thanatos.
The life drive and the death drive.
Yes, Eros is connection, creation, binding things together, love, sex. It is the force that builds. Thanatos is dissolution, aggression, destruction, the desire to return to an inorganic silence. It's the force that takes apart.
Okay. Creation and destruction. That seems pretty standard.
But a healthy psyche holds these in tension. You need both to survive. But culture is terrified of that tension. It tries to split them.
Yeah.
It wants to harness Eros for, making babies and social bonds, keep it tidy. And it wants to exile Thanatos into the shadows, pretend we don't have a death drive.
You can't just split a human being down the middle like that. You can't just decide, oh, I'm only going to be constructive today.
Yeah, well, and the woman's body, just by its biological reality, refuses that split. That is why she is so terrifying to a binary system. Think about childbirth.
That's the ultimate creation of life, pure Eros.
And yet, it's agony, it's blood, it's a brush with death, it's creation and destruction happening in the same breath. Menstruation is a potential for life, but it's also a mourning, a loss, a symbol of mortality. The woman embodies Eros and Thanatos at the same time. She is the living contradiction that the binary system, pure versus impure, active versus passive, it just can't process it.
So she's just walking chaos to the system.
She's the reminder that life and death are tangled together, and civilization hates that ambiguity.
The witch hunts come to mind immediately.
Of course. We usually think of witches as, women who knew too much about herbs, or they were too independent. But if you actually look at the records, the fear wasn't about them being smart.
I've seen the statistics. It wasn't just, she healed my cow.
No. Something like 80% of the accusations involve sexual deviance or bodily autonomy. consorting with the devil, wild dances, unbridled sexuality. The witch was the embodiment of the untamed drive, the woman who had power that wasn't subservient to the social order.
She was the woman who let Eros and Thanatos just run wild, and that was terrifying because it was uncontrolled.
And so she had to be burned. It was a ritual, an attempt to exercise the collective fear of that untamed female power.
And then you flip the coin, and you get the Victorians. The pendulum swings completely the other way. From the burning stake to the drawing room.
We get the angel in the house.
The pure, passive, asexual mother, the guardian of morality. But the fear is still there, isn't it? It's managed differently.
I was thinking about the corset in this context.
We see it as fashion or just a painful beauty standard, but in this light, it feels like something else entirely.
The corset is the physical manifestation of the superego. It's a technology of containment. I mean, think about what it does. It literally compresses the body into an acceptable shape. It restricts breath, movement, the ability to take up space. It is society saying, your nature is too much, we must bind it.
It's incredible how we frame virtues like chastity, modesty, silence. We teach them to girls as being good, but you're saying they're actually just cages?
They're cages designed to make female sexuality legible, safe, subservient to the male lineage. When a woman steps outside those bounds, when she claims her desire, her anger, her autonomy, she isn't just breaking a rule, she is threatening the entire illusion that morality is universal. She reveals these virtues are just rules designed to stabilize power.
So let's bring this to today. We don't wear corsets. We don't burn witches. We like to think we're so liberated. We have female CEOs, political leaders. Does this dynamic still exist, or are we just talking about ghosts?
The ghost lingers.
Yeah.
It has just changed its shape. Look at how we treat women who are too loud, or women who prioritize a career over motherhood, or women who are sexually unapologetic.
Oh, the labels come out instantly. Difficult, cold, selfish.
Unfeminine.
Unfeminine, yes. That's the one.
And that's the most telling. It implies there is a correct way to be a woman, and it always involves being smaller, more accommodating, more nurturing. When a woman refuses that, the superego recoils. It's the same ancient anxiety. If we let women have full expression of their drives, both erotic and aggressive, the whole edifice of normal life might tremble.
And it isn't just men doing the policing.
No. That is the tragedy of internalized oppression. Women police themselves. They police each other.
Right.
A woman splits her own psyche. She creates a good self, the compliant, safe one, and she shoves the bad self, the one who wants, who hates, who rages into the basement.
She does it to survive, to belong.
Exactly. But as we've said, the repressed always returns. That basement door doesn't stay locked forever.
Yeah.
And right now, it feels like we are seeing a massive return of the repressed.
You see it in #MeToo, in the rise of female rage as a genre in movies and books. We are seeing the bad self come upstairs.
It is the return of Thanatos. And I want to be very clear. This is not a bad thing. This aggression is necessary. It's the force required to dismantle false structures. You cannot politely ask a system of oppression to dismantle itself. You need the energy of refusal. You need the no.
That is a tough pill to swallow for a lot of people. We want progress to be nice, constructive.
But sometimes you have to burn the dead wood to let something new grow.
So, if we stop running from this, if we stop trying to categorize it or repress it, what do we do? I mean, the question remains, how do we solve the mystery? How do we fix this?
You're still falling into the trap.
I'm trying to find a solution.
You want to solve it, to interpret her. That is just another form of mastery, another way to try and control the chaos. Even if you say, oh, I get it now, she is a symbol of chaos, you're still objectifying her. You're still turning her into a concept.
That is a tough habit to break. We want to understand things so we don't have to fear them.
But here's the deepest secret, the one that really keeps us up at night. Culture doesn't fear female nature. It fears that there is no fixed nature at all.
Explain that.
We build our lives on the idea that we are solid, that I am a coherent person, that there are rules, and if I follow them, I am safe. The woman, in her fluidity, her cycles, her connection to life and death, she reveals that the self is a fragile construct. She reveals that control is an illusion.
So she isn't a riddle, she's a crack in the wall.
Exactly. She's a crack in the wall of civilization. And through her, we see the chaos we're trying so desperately to wall out. And the tragedy is that she has been taught to forget herself, to suppress her own humanity, just to keep that wall standing for everyone else.
It's a profound thought. That we ask women to be less human so that we can pretend to be more civilized.
And we punish them when they stop pretending.
So where does that leave us? I mean, Freud famously asked, what does a woman want? And said he couldn't answer it.
That question was never meant to be answered. It was meant to haunt us. It just stands there to remind us that some things cannot be colonized by logic.
It feels like the goal isn't to find an answer, but to stop asking the question as if it's some problem to be fixed.
Precisely. To you listening, I would offer this provocation. The next time you feel the urge to explain a woman's behavior, or to fix it, or to categorize it, just stop. Ask yourself what you're really doing. Are you being truly curious, or are you just trying to rebuild your own sense of safety?
Are you trying to patch the crack in the wall?
Because the goal is not to understand her. The goal is to meet her, to stand before the other person in all their contradiction, all their mess, all their power, and just let them be.
That is a terrifying and a beautiful challenge.
It is the only one that matters.
We'll leave you with that thought to carry into the rest of your day. Thanks for diving deep with us.